There is a critical piece to the story that's dominating the headlines right now out of Minnesota that the media is trying to bury. Both sides are trying to bury because they've monetized the argument. Now, unfortunately, the only place I can discuss this and show it to you is over at Patreon. And believe it or not, it's actually tied to something that this channel covered only about a week ago. I was relating a story about something that happened in the World of Warcraft universe back in 2005. They had created what they call a debuff and given this power to one of the main bosses that he could infect you with this thing called the Blood Plague. And it would slowly deplete your health over a certain amount of time. You couldn't survive it without having a healer come and dispel it. Well, the problem is that debuff was only meant to be used in that specific area where the boss was. A certain race of character called hunters had pets, and their pets would get infected with this. They would then dismiss their pet and then have it reappear in a major city of World of Warcraft, and it would immediately begin infecting everyone. And it would spread so fast there was nothing that could be done about it. Now, what does this have to do with what's going on now? Well, part of that story had to do with what you're looking at on your screen right now. These are guards. Every city in World of Warcraft had guards. They are incredibly overpowered. They are there to keep players from the enemy faction from attacking the city, so that there's a safe place for everyone to go, no matter who you are. And they heal amazingly quickly. And they walk around and they rove generally through the city. So there's no place that you could avoid them. Well, when they got infected with the Blood Plague, they became basically asymptomatic spreaders. And the way this played out, epidemiological studies were done on this event on servers in World of Warcraft back in 2005, and that really mimicked what's going on now. These roving guards were the original asymptomatic spreader. That's why they were telling everybody, stay home, stay home, stay home, no matter how you feel. There weren't enough healers, no matter how many you had. Well, guess who in the news was an asymptomatic spreader? You can find out the answer to that question at patreon.com. It's somebody that you know the name of very, very well, and you have to ask yourself a question. I wonder how many lives were actually saved by stopping this asymptomatic spreader from continuing to move throughout the city of Minneapolis. Now, in other news, and just real quick, Patreon.com is kind of an unique beast. It only costs $1, by the way, $1 a month to have access to the Florida Maquis there. It's not really about the money. It's about protecting the content and showing YouTube that I am doing my very best to honor my agreement with them not to put things on this channel that are too controversial for advertisers. So, www.patreon.com. When you go there, go to the search bar, type in Florida, Florida, space Maquis, Maquis. There is no R in the second part of the channel name. It's Florida Maquis, not Marquis. Maquis, Maquis. But recently announced 10 heavily armed frigates are on the way to the U.S. Navy. Now, these are going to be very advanced weapons. They are going to change the face of the Navy in a way that we haven't seen since the aircraft carrier was introduced. They are going to be able to conduct battle over the horizon. They are going to have submersible drones of their own, meaning miniature submarines, which is going to change the face of submarine warfare as well. Because a drone doesn't have the considerations of depth that a pressurized unit does that has human beings in it. So while submarines have pretty much ruled the seas for the last 50 years, 60 years, these new heavily armed frigates are going to be the new commanders of the waves. Because they're not going to have one or two, they're going to have 10 of these drones on each of these frigates. And they're going to be able to go down to depth, maybe armed with one, maybe two torpedoes, dive to depths that other submarines can't, stay there literally indefinitely. They'll be able to hide from radar. And you can't take a torpedo hit when you have hundreds of guys on a sub. At that depth, you won't survive, but a drone is just a drone. They're basically going to be well, I actually can't use that term. They're going to be able to sacrifice themselves to win the war, whereas a regular submarine can't. But speaking of advanced submarines, this is what's happening off the coast of the United States right now. USS Pinckney takes down drug vessel, seizes 70 bales of cocaine. I want you to look really close at that picture in the foreground. This is the level of technology that the private cartels have down there. You see, making a vessel that goes completely underwater takes a lot of engineering, but making one that just stays right at the surface and stays real low to the waves, that's actually pretty easy. That's not hard to do at all, and they can make them incredibly fast. As you can see, they've coated this one with some type of a aqua paint to make it virtually impossible to see. But the Pinckney did a really good job here, taking down a couple of them. This is the Fourth Fleet. This is something that years ago, when we were investigating the issues with the Fitzgerald, I said was the biggest concern of the U.S. Navy, is that they needed to stand down the Seventh and stand up the Fourth Fleet, and that's exactly what's going on right now. Is more assets are being brought to the coast of California, the Caribbean Sea, and while they're going to try to couch this and make it seem like it's coming from Venezuela, because the stuff is in Venezuelan waters, it's not going to be too hard to figure out that this is all coming from Colombia and Peru. And that's going to be one of the hard things that DC has to reckon with, is that its biggest ally in South America is also its biggest enemy. Believe me, as a drug dealer, you don't want to get caught in Venezuela. You don't get caught in their waters. They'll just toss you in a hole, and that's the end of it. Civil rights be damned. I mean, if you get caught in a submarine like this, specifically meant to avoid detection and run drugs into the United States, they're not going to give you a day in court to defend yourself. They're not going to. You get caught red-handed like this, it's over. I mean, it's just absolutely over, but the crew of the Pinckney did a really good job here, taking these guys down. And, I don't want to say I feel for these guys, but some of the guys that are charged with actually piloting and steering this thing, they're on the edge of existence. They're not even lieutenants. They're more like foot soldiers. $28 million wholesale value. And as you can see, even in the picture, look how close the color of this vessel is to the color of the water. That's how good they've gotten with this stuff. And something this length, I'll bet you easily can probably, on a good day, in calm seas, can probably pull 50 knots. which is moving. Probably more on average, probably more like 30, but they don't have far to go once they put them in the water. And at night, it's until we can get a handle on the people that are buying it here, which are primarily, strangely enough, rich Venezuelans, not the ones that are in charge of Venezuela at the moment, but rich Venezuelans in Miami. We're never going to stop this because they can just build these things over and over and over again. But if you want to read more about the new frigates that are coming to the Navy, Fox has an article about it. The Navy's vision and mission scope for its emerging new combat-capable frigate includes the ability to destroy swarming small boat attacks, operate undersea and aerial drones, support carrier strike groups, and conduct disaggregated operations, attack enemies with an over-the-horizon missile, and engage in advanced surface and anti-submarine warfare. These things are going to be no joke, guys. They are going to be absolutely no joke, these new frigates. They are going to be able to reshape the battlefield in a way that not even an aircraft carrier is going to be able to deal with. Because these things are going to be able to see the aircraft carrier before the aircraft carrier sees them. Because of those basically unmanned armed submarines that are going to be able to scour the seas ahead of them, undetected. And push come to shove, sacrifice themselves into the... You explode one of those things under the keel of an aircraft carrier, it's over. And these things don't have one of them or two of them. They're going to have a bunch of them. They're going to have unmanned aerial drones that can be shot down. Aircraft carriers carry aircraft that have human beings that we value in them. They have to make decisions in a different way. Submarine commanders have to make decisions in a different way. These floating headquarters for these unmanned assets, they're going to be the new terrors of the sea. You mark my words. But I will leave it there. Anyway, for those of you who have already come to patreon.com, thank you so much. Over 150 people since the 1st of June. Amazing response. Absolutely amazing response. I will try to get up as much content as I can. There's 2 brand new videos there right now. There's some older ones that are basically playlist links back to YouTube. Things that we talked about a long time ago, and I have gone through and tried to unlock those as well. So anyway, God bless, pray for each other, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.